Stop scrolling, because what you're about to hear is not a rumor, not a theory, and definitely not something Blueface ever thought would crawl out of the shadows. Imagine thinking you know your own family, then realizing the people closest to you were playing chess while you were still rolling dice. What if I told you the loudest silence just got shattered? What if the proof wasn't coming from an enemy, but from his own blood? For months, the internet argued, laughed, and picked sides. Chief this, Blueface that. But nobody asked the real question. Who was pulling the strings when the cameras were off? Tonight, an alleged leak flips the entire story upside down. A so-called final proof that, if true, explains every strange move, every awkward silence, every moment that just didn't add up. Coincidence or calculated chaos. And before you think this is over, hold that thought. Because buried inside this mess is another whisper getting louder by the second. Blueface's secret call leaked. His mom exposes the mastermind behind the plan. Why would a mother speak now? Why does timing? And why does everyone involved suddenly look nervous? Stay right here, because this isn't about facts anymore. This is about a story that hits the gut. And we're only seconds away from the part they never wanted you to hear. Lattice GNTL men, wait. Don't blink, because the next few seconds are the kind that make thumbs freeze mid-scroll and hearts skip like something just went very wrong. Blueface never expected this phone call to exist. Not because it was illegal, not because it was loud, but because it was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that sounds normal until you replay it and realize every pause is hiding something. And now, according to internet whispers and sources who swear they heard it, that call didn't just leak. It detonated. Picture this. Late night, no cameras, no Instagram Live, no Chrisean yelling in the background. Just a phone, a voice, and a plan that finally sounds complete. People online are saying this was the moment everything clicked. The moment fans stopped asking what's going on and started asking who planned this, because suddenly the chaos looked organized. Suddenly the mess had a map. And just when you think this is another recycled rumor, another cloud story that dies by morning, a new name enters the chat. His mom. Yes, the one person nobody expected to speak. Especially not like this. Especially not now. The alleged call, the alleged confession, the alleged mastermind. Blueface's secret call leaked. His mom exposes the mastermind behind the plan. That headline didn't trend because it was believable. It trended because it felt dangerous. Here's where the story really starts to crawl under your skin. For years, Blueface's life has looked like chaos on autoplay. Public arguments, broken alliances, explosive relationships that burned bright and then burned everyone around them. Fans called it toxic love. Critics called it self-destruction. But a growing number of people are now calling it something else entirely: strategy. Because when you line up the moments, the timing of the fights, the sudden family involvement, the way the narrative shifted overnight, it starts to feel less like accidents and more like moves. Internet detectives went back, way back. Old interviews, old lives, old clips nobody paid attention to the first time. And in those clips, there's a pattern people swear they missed. Every time Blueface tried to step away, someone pulled him back. Every time he tried to stay quiet, someone spoke for him. Every time he tried to control the story escaped him. Almost like the script wasn't his. And then came the so-called leak. Now, let's be clear. Nobody has officially confirmed anything. No paperwork, no press release, just whispers, breakdown videos, and audio descriptions that people claim came from someone who knows someone who was there. But sometimes stories don't go viral because they're proven. They go viral because they feel true. According to these online accounts, the call wasn't emotional. That's what scares people. No yelling, no crying, just calm voices, discussing outcomes, talking about timing, about reactions, about letting certain people crash out while others stayed clean. One voice allegedly older, steadier, the kind of voice that doesn't rush because it already knows how this ends. That's where his mom's name keeps coming up. People started asking uncomfortable questions. Why did certain family members always seem one step ahead of the drama? Why did statements come out so fast after incidents? Why? Did it always feel like someone was steering the narrative back on track whenever things got too messy? And why, after this alleged call surfaced, did so many people suddenly go silent? Comment sections turned into courtrooms. Everyone became a detective. Screenshots flew. Timelines were rebuilt. Fans weren't just watching anymore. They were connecting dots that maybe weren't meant to be connected. And every dot led back to the same unsettling idea. What if Blueface wasn't the villain or the victim, but the piece? Think about it. Every great scandal needs a face. Someone loud, someone unpredictable, someone the public loves to judge. While everyone points at that person, nobody looks behind the curtain. And behind that curtain, according to the theory, spreading like wildfire, sat someone older, smarter, and very comfortable letting the storm rage as long as it served the plan. And what was the plan? Control. Control of money. Control of access. Control of narrative. People online claim lavish spending patterns suddenly made sense. Why do certain deals collapse? Why do others mysteriously survive? Why some people were pushed out while others stayed protected? It wasn't chaos, it was filtration. What really shook people wasn't even the alleged call itself. It was the timing. Why now? Why leak something like this when the public had just started moving on? When attention was finally cooling, that's when a theory emerged that made even longtime fans are uncomfortable. What if this leak wasn't an accident? What if it was a warning? Because if the story is true, even partially, then someone decided it was time to shift the blame, to expose the architect instead of the actor, to show that the mess wasn't random. It was rehearsed. And once that idea takes root, it doesn't matter if it's proven. It changes how every past moment is remembered. Suddenly old arguments don't look emotional, they look performative. Old breakdowns don't look spontaneous, they look scheduled. And the most unsettling part, the idea that the people who claim to be protecting Blueface might have been protecting the plan instead. Fans started asking, if this mastermind really exists, why expose them now? Is someone losing control? Is the plan cracking? Or is this just phase 2? Because here's the thing about stories like this. They don't leak unless someone wants them heard. Silence is easy to keep when everyone benefits from it. Noise only happens when the balance breaks, and something has definitely broken. Because once the idea of a mastermind is planted, the internet doesn't let it go. It digs. It rewinds. It replays moments that once felt random and suddenly treats them like evidence in a trial that never sleeps. And that's exactly what happened next. Overnight, clips resurfaced that people swear hit differently. Now aside, I hear a pause there. A sentence that sounded harmless back then, but now feels loaded like it knew too much. People began saying, wait, why did she say it like that? Why did he stop talking right there? Why did the conversation change the moment money came up? These weren't answers. They were hooks. And once hooked, viewers kept pulling. Anonymous accounts popped up claiming insider knowledge. No names, no faces, just bios that read things like close to the situation or family adjacent. Convenient, absolutely effective, even more. One account claimed the alleged call wasn't just about damage control, but about positioning, about who needed to look unstable and who needed to look responsible, about who could afford to be loud and who had to stay clean. Again alleged, but the way people repeated it, you'd think it came stamped with a seal. Then came the money talk. That's when things really spiraled. According to these so-called leaks, spending patterns weren't reckless. They were intentional. Lavish gifts at strategic moments. Sudden generosity right before public blow-ups. Payments disguised as help that allegedly kept certain people loyal and others dependent. Internet accountants broke down timelines like they were auditing a corporation instead of a celebrity family. And the conclusion they kept circling back to was uncomfortable. Chaos is expensive unless it's an investment. Public reaction split. Instantly, one side said this was all nonsense. Another chapter in the long book of internet fiction. The other side said this explained everything. Why some scandals disappeared overnight. Why certain narratives always survived. Why, no matter how wild things got, someone always landed on their feet. And right in the middle of that chaos sat Blueface silent. That silence became its own. Headline. No denial, no rant, no joke, just quiet. And in the world of viral drama, silence is either guilt or shock. Fans argued which one it was, but almost everyone agreed on one thing. This wasn't normal. This wasn't his usual response. It felt like someone waiting for instructions, or worse, someone realizing the instructions weren't coming anymore. Then the conversation turned darker. What if the mastermind theory wasn't about control for profit, but control for survival? Some commenters suggested that certain family members had built an entire ecosystem around managing crises, turning scandals into content, turning breakdowns into leverage, turning personal pain into public currency. Again, theories allegedly, but when people laid out the pattern, it made an unsettling kind of sense. Every scandal created attention. Attention created relevance. Relevance created money. And money kept the machine alive. At the center of this theory sat the alleged call. Not emotional, not reactive, strategic. The kind of call you make when you're not panicking, when you're calculating. And the idea that a mother's voice could be the calmest one in the room. That shook people, because culturally we expect mothers to protect their children from chaos, not manage it. Reaction videos exploded. Influencers leaned into shocked expressions, whispering like they were revealing state secrets. If this is true, they'd say eyes wide, then everything we thought we knew was wrong. And that sentence alone added fuel, because if this is true is the most powerful phrase on the internet. It doesn't accuse, it invites. Then came the supposed counter leaks. Accounts claiming to defend the family pushed back, saying the call was misinterpreted, edited, or completely fabricated. They accused clout chasers of building narratives out of thin air. But even those defenses raised eyebrows because they didn't deny the existence of tension. They didn't deny discussions about strategy. They just reframed it as family protection. And that word protection suddenly felt slippery. Protecting who? From what? And at whose expense? Fans noticed something else, too. People who usually spoke loudly about Blueface went quiet. Others suddenly changed tone. Old allies distanced themselves. New ones appeared. It felt like lines were being redrawn in real time, like people were choosing sides without ever saying what the sides were. And then someone asked the question nobody wanted to answer. If this plan existed, was Blueface aware of it the whole time? Or was he only aware of the parts he was meant to play? That question split audiences even more. Some saw him as complicit, others as controlled, others as both. But once again, the genius or danger of the story was that it didn't need answers. It thrived on uncertainty. Speculation grew louder about legal implications. Not charges, nothing concrete, just whispers. Words like liability, contracts, exploitation floated around comment sections like ghosts. People imagine investigations that don't exist, consequences that haven't happened. But imagination alone was enough to keep eyes glued. And just when the story seemed ready to collapse under its own weight, a final twist for this chapter emerged. A rumor that more audio existed. Longer, clearer, less ambiguous audio that allegedly explained not just the what, but the why. Whether that audio exists or not almost doesn't matter, because now viewers are waiting for it, anticipating it, hungry. That's the power of a story told in fragments. It turns the audience into participants. They're not watching anymore. They're searching. As this part ends, one thing is undeniable. The narrative has shifted. This is no longer about a messy relationship or viral arguments. It's about control, intention, and the unsettling idea that chaos might have been curated. And if that's even half true, then the final part isn't about rumors spreading. It's about what happens when the people behind the curtain realize the crowd is staring straight at them. Because once the crowd starts staring at the curtain, the people behind it don't panic. They calculate. And that's exactly the energy people swear they felt in the days that followed. No dramatic rebuttals, no emotional live streams, just quiet adjustments, subtle shifts, the kind you only notice when you're already suspicious. Accounts unfollowed, statements delayed, moves made without explanation. To the casual viewer, nothing changed. To the obsessed ones, everything did. Rumors began circulating that meetings were happening off camera, not crisis meetings, strategy meetings. The kind where everyone already knows. The story is out, and the only question left is how to survive it. One anonymous voice online claimed, "This isn't about clearing names anymore. It's about limiting damage." True or not, that sentence spread like wildfire because it sounded exactly like what a mastermind would say, when the plan gets exposed too early. Public backlash took a new shape. Instead of attacking Blueface directly, people started questioning the system around him. Who benefited? Who always landed safely no matter how bad things got? Who spoke only when it served them? Suddenly, sympathy shifted. Not because Blueface looked innocent, but because he looked managed, like someone who had been living inside a narrative built by others. Then came the whispers of consequences. No official investigations, no courtroom drama, just the kind of consequences that happen quietly in the industry, deals that stop calling back, invitations that dry up, conversations that end with, "We'll see." People notice brands getting cautious. Media outlets choose their words more carefully. When a story gets this radioactive, nobody wants to be the last one holding it. Some online theorists claimed financial pressure was already building, that the same chaos that once generated clicks and checks was now scaring people away, that the machine might have finally started eating itself. Again, speculation. But speculation is powerful when it fits the mood. Others took it even further, suggesting internal fractures. That not everyone involved agreed with how far things had gone. That loyalty was cracking. That the leak, if it was real, didn't come from outside enemies, but from inside frustration. Because leaks rarely come from hatred, they come from disappointment. And through it all, one question refused to die. Why would a mother allow this narrative to exist? Around her son? That question haunted comment sections. Some defended her fiercely, saying she did what she had to do in an impossible situation. Others weren't so forgiving. They argued that guidance turned into control somewhere along the line, that protection crossed into manipulation, and that love, when mixed with ambition, can become something unrecognizable. The internet doesn't do nuance well. It wants heroes and villains. But this story refused to settle. Every time someone tried to pin the role of villain, another clip surfaced that complicated it. Every time someone tried to crown a hero, another allegation dragged him back into the gray. And that's why the story stuck. Because at its core, this wasn't really about leaked calls or secret plans. It was about power. Who holds it? Who loses it? And how easily it hides behind chaos. People don't just watch scandals like this for entertainment. They watch them because somewhere deep down they recognize the pattern. A loud figure absorbing all the blame. Quieter figures shaping outcomes from the shadows. As days passed, the frenzy didn't die, it matured. Less screaming, more analysis, longer videos, slower voices, the kind of content that signals a shift from shock to digestion. When that happens, stories stop being trends and start becoming myths. And myths don't need proof to survive. They just need repetition. Blueface's name continued to trend, but the tone had changed. Less mockery, more concern. Less he's wild, and more he looks trapped. Whether that perception is fair or not doesn't matter. Perception is currency online, and this one was expensive. Some fans called for him to speak out. Others begged him not to, because once you speak, you choose a version of the story. And choosing wrong can lock you into it forever. Silence, on the other hand, keeps possibilities alive. And right now, possibilities are the only leverage anyone has left. The alleged mastermind theory may never be proven. The call may never surface. Or it might, but the real fallout has already happened. Trust eroded, narratives fractured, and a public that once consumed chaos without question now watches with suspicion. That's the cost of pulling back the curtain too far. Because even if half of the story is fiction, it changed how people see the other half. And once that lens shifts, there's no rewind button. Every future move will be analyzed. Every silence was interpreted. Every smile was questioned. So here we are, not at the end of the story, but at the end of innocence. The point where entertainment turns into unease. Where people stop laughing and start wondering who's really in control. Now, I'll leave you with this. If the chaos was planned, who planned the ending? If the mastermind was exposed, are they done or just adapting? And if Blueface truly never expected this, what happens when he realizes the role he was playing? Drop your thoughts. Argue in the comments. Take sides if you must. And remember, stories like this don't explode because they're true. They explode because they feel too real to ignore. Stay watching, because silence is never the end. Laddies, GNTL men, before you click away, Let this sit with you for one more second. Stories like this don't ask for belief. They dare you to look closer. Maybe this was all smoke. Maybe it was mirrors. Or maybe this was the moment the mask slipped just enough for people to notice the hands pulling the strings. Either way, one thing is clear. Once a story makes you question everything you thought you knew, it already won. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Blueface was in control this whole time? Or was he playing a role written by someone else? Was this alleged leak a warning shot, or the beginning of a bigger collapse? And if a mastermind really exists, do you think they're exposed now, or just getting smarter? Drop your take in the comments. Don't hold back. Argue with each other. Challenge the narrative, because the comments section is where the real investigation happens. And if you notice something everyone else missed, say it. Those details matter more than any headline. If this story kept you watching, if it made you pause, rewind, or rethink, hit that like button so more people see it. Subscribe if you want more stories they don't explain on daytime TV. And turn on notifications, because the next chapter never comes when you expect it. It drops when silence feels too loud. Share this video with someone who thinks they've already seen it all. Because the most dangerous plans aren't the loud ones. They're the ones hiding in plain sight. Stay sharp, stay curious, and remember, when the truth feels uncomfortable, that's usually when the story's just getting started.